Welcome back. This is Asking for Knowledge, episode 14, and this is going to be a quick one. So the title of today's podcast is Squirrels and Beliefs. So if this is your first time listening, you picked a banger. This one should be, I hope, at least entertaining. We have 3 episode types. This is Asking Out Loud. So this is me, your host, Jeff Mabe, just pontificating all different types of questions and ideas and things. And so that's what today's version is. We have a version called Ask the Experts, where we will bring in experts in all different types of fields. And then we have Ask Your Parents, where we will either share responses to surveys that we've sent out to parents, or we will bring parents on themselves, who have maybe been through a process with their baseball player or their athlete and have a good story to tell. So several different versions there. Our goal with this podcast is to get to first principles on everything youth baseball. And today's episode, you might question that. I promise it relates. But our core focus as an organization, I got to slow down on these things, is to help young players master the mechanics mentality and joy of baseball. So today very briefly, we're going to talk about beliefs. And I'm going to start with a really funny story. I took my boys squirrel hunting this morning, and I never go squirrel hunting without thinking about my grandfather. And he, because he and I spent hours and hours and days chasing squirrels, and it was just such a huge part of my childhood and a part that I look fondly on. And so I always think of him when I go. And then I can't help but think while I'm out there of this maxim or this idea that he used to share related to deer corn and squirrels. And so I want to share this story real quick, and then I want to ask questions of you. And I'll share that story, and then I'll share something that I ran across this week that kind of prompted this thing and prompted this thought process, and then put the questions back on you to consider for yourself. So he had this belief that, and he would tell it all the time, but he'd be like, don't put out too much corn for the deer, because if you put out too much corn for the deer, the squirrels will eat it all. Now, I don't know where this originated. He was a child of the Great Depression, and so I understood the kind of the frugal nature of it. It's like you just don't waste it all, don't throw a whole bunch out. But I never understood the logic behind it, because if you only put a little bit out, you're almost guaranteeing that the squirrels are going to be the only thing to get it, because they'll haul it off all day long, whereas the deer will come in and feed and then they'll leave. And so one of those we just laughed about that. And I never, we respected him so much. So we were never going to question, what he was sharing there, but it just didn't make sense. Okay. Just flat out. It didn't make sense. So this week I come across a quick video, and it is a gentleman that has obviously, I think he played minor league ball. I think he played in college. He's a guy that gives a lot of information for parents on recruiting, and obviously he knows tons of people in baseball. He interviews them, and I'm not going to call him out, because it's not the purpose of this. But he had a guy on, a hitting instructor, a professional hitting instructor that works with pro guys, and I guess first and foremost, it kind of seemed like an infomercial for this special ball that the machines use that can help hitters test themselves against different pitches without stinging their hands. And so it was like he kind of kept giving this promo. And so he holds up this ball in the video, and the ball is like a plyometric ball that you would throw against a wall. It's not a ball you would put in a machine. So it doesn't look the same. It doesn't feel the same. It's not the same diameter, and it's heavier. And so here's a guy that's been in baseball for umpteen years. He's not a young man, has been to, the professional levels, knows tons of people, has networked, and he doesn't know the difference between a pitching machine ball and a plyometric ball. Now, that in and of itself is not that big of a deal, but then he goes on to criticize another hitting instructor that is relatively famous. And his approach, and it's just one of those things where you sit back and you say, holy cow, like I could, because I've listened quite a bit, but I guess the older I get, the more I question the things that I hear and that I come across. So, and that's not the end of it. So then the other hitting instructor talks about how there's only one player that could use this swing type, that the hitting instructor that I just referred to, that was being criticized. There's only one player that could swing like this because he's a freak athlete and this and that. Now, in the same, all this was in one video. In the same video, the other gentleman talks about how awesome this hitting instructor is because he's worked with many other athletes, and then he mentions a player that is the literal fastest player in all of Major League Baseball. So he is a freak athlete of freak athletes. So in one case, this gentleman is telling me I should listen to the MLB hitting instructor because he knows what he's talking about, and he works with all different types of athletes. But he specifically mentions the best athlete, at least the fastest, in all of Major League Baseball as a reason to listen to him. But then discounts this other instructor because of the athlete that he works with. You cannot put logic to it. And so, again, I don't want to be unfair to either of those people. I'm not going to say their names, and I hope you never find the video. Okay? My point is, our beliefs about things dictate so much about how we see the world, how we view the world, how we accept information, how we don't accept information. And oddly enough, we live in a time where there is so much out there. Yet we tend to jump in a camp and just stay there because of what one person says or this person or that person or some authority figure. And I genuinely don't understand it first and foremost, but I'm genuinely concerned second as it relates to baseball because these are the people that are pushing the future forward in the game, right? These are the people that are educated. These are the people that parents are listening to. And if they're not willing to open their minds to anything, right? Again, not understanding the difference between a plyo ball and a machine ball, and yet have an opinion on all these other things that influences other people. The whole point is for you, for your family, for yourself. Question everything. Understand how beliefs impact the way that you see the world. I talked in the last podcast about beliefs, and they're kind of the software that we run on, right? They provide that. So we've got our hardware, our physical body, but then our mind kind of runs on that software, and really how we view the world and how we interact with the world is very much impacted by those beliefs. And so I would just challenge you, and I'm going to continue to challenge myself to make sure that you look at all sides of things. Make sure before you form an opinion, you're not just jumping on board with the wave or the tide of sentiment from some one-liner you heard about somebody or some idea or some way that they do things. Make sure that you're not putting out a little bit of corn so the squirrels don't eat it all. I'll leave you with a quote. Love my papa. I hope he's if he can hear this, I hope he's laughing about that. I miss him. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with a quote. Orson Scott Card, great novel, Ender's Game, if you've not had the pleasure, but this is his quote. We question all our beliefs except for those that we truly believe in, and those we never think to question. What are those things for you? How do they affect your life? How do they affect the way you interact with people? How do they affect the way you approach things? How do they affect the goals that you set? Make sure you know what that filter is and what that software is that's running, and keep your mind open, challenge things, question things, stay curious. And until next time, keep asking for knowledge.